This is Synchronicity.
This is Synchronicity.
This is Synchronicity.
This is Synchronicity. This is Synchronicity.
Welcome to Synchronicity, another solo cast, but this is an important one, I'll tell you that. This one is about how do we deal with doubt and impatience, and also how do we stay grounded. First off, I just want to thank everyone. I mean, the emails, the texts, the calls, the letters have been coming in from people who have started using the imaginal techniques, the imaginal act techniques, and already started to get the things they wanted or become the people that they knew they always were, which is amazing. It's been, I think, less than a month since I started talking about this stuff in terms of practical techniques. So that's really fucking cool. And I love hearing those stories, and I love people just reaching out and sharing themselves and saying, hey, this is what I really want. Can you imagine it for me? And of course I can. I imagine getting the email back saying this happened. Oh my God. So of course. And you can do it yourself too. But if you need a little extra bump, I'll help you. No problem. But I've also been getting emails, texts, and calls, no letters about this, from people who are like, listen, I've been doing this imagining stuff, just like you said. Maybe I had a little bit of problems, but I've been doing it and nothing is there yet. I don't feel different. Nothing has come. There's no external validation. Like, what gives, man? Are you just selling some hooey? Luckily, I'm not selling anything, so it just costs you a little bit of time before you go to bed at night. But let's talk about that. Let's talk about what's happening there. And I'd like to use a scenario from my own life that I think can help illustrate how I deal with this stuff and how I kind of skirt and realize what's actually going on. So many of you have heard about the YouTube channel, MindPod Network, where I'm putting up all of these talks. And I've had an amazing journey over the past 2 months of basically scaling this up, where it was making me at its peak almost $300 a day, which really pretty much doing nothing. But then I noticed something started to happen. I started getting a little attached to this idea of money coming in this specific way. And then I started getting a little weird about it. And then I started fearing, like, is it going to go away? What happens if it does? Why is this happening? And sure enough, YouTube has radically changed in the past 2 weeks, and it is crippled. I think like I'm getting 10% of what I was getting, more than that, more than 10%, like 20 or 30% of what I was getting before. And I started to be like, oh my God. Like, what's going on? Like, why is this happening? What am I doing? What am I imagining for myself? And then I started to get some other perspective on what was going on. And I started to realize that, well, was I actually imagining that YouTube was going to be the only channel? I would love for it to be, but what if there's other means of income that are coming? What if there are things that are more aligned with what I'm doing? And this isn't to make excuses and shift what's going on. Now, if I had specifically imagined YouTube bringing in 30 grand a month for me alone, then I would just stick to that. And I would recognize that this is myself playing a very compelling game with myself, which is, let's put up all these obstacles for this actually happening. Let's make it look like things are going incredibly wrong and not right, and see how you can handle that. It's easy to believe stuff when everything is coming true and everything is happening. The true tests are when the world of your senses are denying actively, very much so, what you imagined. That's a real test. That'll test your faith. So how do we deal with this, right? How do we recognize A, what's going on, B, stay not attached to this idea of it has to be exactly when I imagined it? And now here's the secret. If you really start to understand this stuff, it happens very, very quickly. But remember, we don't want everything we imagine to happen really quickly. We think a lot of thoughts throughout the day, and a lot of times those thoughts can be not so great. So if things happen right away and we didn't have this delay of time and ability to maybe change our minds or do something differently, things could get pretty hairy pretty quickly. And my contention is when you drop your body, right? Even if you just do this imaginally, you go to those places much more quickly, right? If I think of Jamaica right now, maybe in my mind I'm in Jamaica, but I'm not physically in Jamaica right now. Well, you could be listening to this and I could actually be in Jamaica in the future, but right now when I'm recording it, I'm not. But that is not how things work in the imaginal realm. You think of something, you go there, right? You get a vision when you're trying to imagine something. You don't, they can impose on what's going on. You'd be like, what is going on? I'm a dolphin now? I'm swimming underwater? What does this mean? I still haven't figured that one out completely. Something with the unconscious. I'll get to it. But basically, you want to be aware that your external reality will constantly reflect back to you your state of consciousness. So if things seem like they were going really well and then all of a sudden they feel like they're not and you're reacting towards that, that's a sign of where you're at. So this is what I'd say if you're dealing with doubt and impatience. Try to step outside of yourself and see what you're communicating, right? The world is a symphony of synchronicities. You're the conductor conducting this song, and it's to get you to wake up to who you actually are. That's really what's going on here, okay? So when you recognize that, what are you trying to tell yourself? Why is doubt creeping up? Why is impatience creeping up? Maybe it's presenting you an opportunity to deal with those emotions so you can have more of those and you can deal with things more with a better sense of equanimity as time moves on and you're presented with other things. So just recognize that if you really understand this, if you really fully get that your imagination creates reality, it's all good. It's grist for the mill, as Ram Dass would say. Literally, this is just stuff for you to recognize and see. If you get freaked out and knocked off balance, that's okay. You can forgive yourself. It happens. It's not the worst thing in the world. If you get knocked off balance and you react and you do something bad and you start collapsing into a former not so great version of yourself, just G-check yourself. Gangsta check yourself, man. That's all. Just do it and see what happens. You'll be okay. So another thing that I want to talk about that's very, very close to my heart and very important, especially when we're talking about this imaginal act stuff, is how do we make sure that we stay grounded to this world? Recognize that even though it's an after effect and our imagination is the real reality, we're here too. If you're listening to this, you're listening to this in three-dimensional Earth space, right? Maybe sometimes in the future there'll be some other way to listen to it, but you're here. You're here for a reason. Don't forget that. It is very easy to get really out in space when you understand this concept of imagination creating reality. I mean, you can really do some amazing things, but you want to make sure that you're still connected to this world and you recognize why you're here and what you're supposed to do. And that means real world responsibilities. It means making sure that you're not just going off into space all the time, that you can communicate lucidly with people who are here, that you still have an interest in the stuff you used to have an interest in, right? When I say used to, if you fucking wake up, just still make sure that you're doing the same stuff you really love. I'm still a Miami Dolphins fan. I'll point it out until the day they win the Super Bowl, and then I'll retire. I'll George Costanza it at that point. No, I won't. I'll still be a Dolphins fan. But anyway, my point is this: don't get rid of the parts of you that make you you because you feel you've changed some way. That's not good. Drop the bullshit. Drop the negative stuff, drop the fear, anxiety, doubt, all of that stuff. Of course, it's fucking useless, but don't lose touch with who you are. So there's a couple of things that I noticed that really helped me, really a few things. One I didn't put on the list that I wrote out, which is just physical exercise. Oh my God, if I don't do it, I mean, I just started really kind of religiously doing it over the past 2 months, to jog every morning and try to just get other stuff done outdoors. Like, you got to do it. You gotta do it. Some people more than others. I'm one of those people. If I don't do it, everything, it's just harder. It's just so much harder for me. So just make sure that you're doing something to stay active. Also, make sure you get outside. You will feel compelled to be outside and in nature. If someone says, hey, do you want to take a hike? You want to go to the beach? You'll be like, yeah, I do. That's the most important thing I want to do right now, because that's another big part of why we're here. It also helps us to remember that, like, this is a planet. Let's take care of it. Let's do the things to make sure this amazing thing stays around and is amazing for everyone. And it will be. We'll get there. Don't worry. I know it seems dire, but this is not the Kali Yuga. This is not the realm and time when people can't do anything to change their circumstances, right? Sri Yukteswar, who was Paramahansa Yogananda's teacher. We're going real heavy into the Vedic stuff. Autobiography of a Yogi. Go check it out. Lots of magical powers, lots of cool stuff. He calculated it and said we are in the Dwapara Yuga, which means that we're slowly emerging from darkness. And a lot of these magical, amazing, revelatory, illuminating practices are coming back to light. And that sounds more right to me than everything is fucked. Although it is, whatever is in the eye of the beholder is what it is. Anyway, the other thing that you should do, truthfully, and I point out that Yuga stuff because if you sense hopelessness and you look out in the world and things are just seeming bad, just like that's just figure out what's getting triggered in you, deal with it in yourself. Trust me, we will be okay. We will have internal and external resources. I'm not saying that because I hope it happens. I'm not saying because I want it to happen. Both of those things are true. I'm saying because this happened. It's happened. Let's just let it unfold. We'll see about that, right? And then the other thing that's important is this, is everything is kind of funny. Like when you get cascading synchronicities and keep walking into the dream, like it's just funny. It's just a cosmic wink and joke, and it's hilarious. And you should be able to laugh at funny things in this life too, comedy, stand-up, shows, stuff like that. It's like, don't lose your sense of humor with all this shit. Like if you do, you done fucked up. You're going off course. It's not the way to be. If you get so serious about things, it's just a tried and true hallmark that you are missing some aspect of reality. And maybe you're a person who actually has a lot of like comedy and humor in their life, but you notice that what you're putting out into the world, maybe what you put on social media is just dark and destructive and angry and rage. That's something to look at, you know, try to make sure that everything you're putting out there is really an accurate reflection of who you want to be. So it's not to say we don't bear witness to what's going on in the world. There's fucked up shit going on. We bear witness, we watch, and we bear witness so we can change it and recognize we don't want that. We don't need this in the world. We don't need these fucked up things. And you don't laugh maniacally like a fucking crazy person at people suffering, but everything is kind of funny. It's kind of funny when you fully get it. And you don't camel your head into the sand and not pay attention to the things that just don't look funny. But when you get this stuff, it's kind of funny. So that's it for this episode. I was kind of a long one. We're dealing with some cool subjects. Rate and review this podcast if you enjoyed it. I like the reviews. I love when I see people write amazing things. The ratings are great too, but the reviews, oh boy, mamma mia, I love it. Mwah. So if you can do that, that would be amazing. They're not even sponsoring this podcast, but I just love the guys, right? If you go to helloned.com, use the code SYNC, SYNC at checkout. You get 15% off. They're not even sponsoring this episode. I'm just doing this because I love them. It's a bonus one for those guys. It's CBD oil. It's full spectrum hemp oil. If you understand imagination creates reality, you understand we can bless these things and have them wake you up one CBD drop at a time. For real. I'm not making it up. Check it out and see what happens. Plus, if you just want empirical physiological proof that this stuff works, go read about the endocannabinoid system. I love weed. I love those guys. I love cannabis. I love hemp. So check it out. That's it. One last thing. Actually, I lied. There's a survey on the Synchronicity site. I would love if you filled it out, right? It's a really cool way for me to find out more about you, figure out what you would like to see. I have some projects in the works that are coming out later this year. We're whipping them into shape, fleshing them out, so they're going to be manifest in this world. I would love feedback and love to talk to you if you're interested in it about what I can do to make this the best fucking coolest thing ever. So that's it. And I don't know if I'll see you next week, maybe in a few days. Who knows? But have fun out there and happy imagining.